trustworthy. It's very passionate about what we do, and we keep the conversation going 247. And I appreciate you for staying with us. And welcome, Abuja, to Hard Facts. It get quite intense here as we look at some of the big stories driving conversation, and then we'll also shift gear into something equally topical. And we'll keep with that tradition today. My name is Kimberly. Call me Kim, the Oracle, the digital Oracle. That is the fellow OTF Madam Speaker. And I'll say yes, yes, yes to them all. And my guest is comfortably seated. Just wish him a happy birthday with me, because today is Daniel Jaja's birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Kim. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You're glowing extra when I saw, and I thought maybe because I haven't seen in a long time. It's been a while we had you on the Roundtable and all of that. You do look amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I try small.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So how are you coping? What's the plan for the birthday with all of this cashless policy and all the banks acting crazy and all that?
Well, in the same vein as you said that, the plan for this birthday is a cashless plan because there's no cash. There is no cash, and even transfers are a problem or difficult. So let's just see what happens between now and the early hours of the evening.
Really, really. I understand even with the transfers, a lot of banks. I was complaining yesterday on air, and tons of complaints on my end. I'm sure quite a number of people have it also. And I would encourage you guys, be careful more than ever. Now that a lot of banks are having challenges and people are desperate just to do transfer, to resolve issues, you want to be very, very careful. There are a lot of fraudsters, a lot of 419ers, there are a lot of Yahoo boys who are just waiting in the shadows to rip you off the little change you have if you're not careful. So out of desperation, do not compromise your account detail. Anything beyond your account number is going too far, all right? So that you don't come and compound your woes. The banks are difficult to get into at the moment, so your complaints, it could just hang for air like the money. Just be careful. That's what I'm saying. Beyond your account number, do not compromise your account details. So we have the election just a few days away, and I'm just curious, before we get into some of the stories, Daniel, we haven't had you all through this here on the Roundtable. How ready are you
for
the 2023 election? By you, I mean, do you perceive the country in terms of our readiness?
Well, I hope that this time around, Nigerians will not once again pick short-sighted motivation or incentives to influence their choice or their vote. I hope people will understand that you do not have to vote like a traditionalist, insisting on voting the same party again and again and again, regardless of what. I hope that this time around, we will actually have more people going to the polls, having considered what each party and the candidates have placed in front of them in the course of their campaign, with more focus being on actual plans and ideas and strategies to improve the situation for every Nigerian, not just for those who they know or those who are somehow connected to them or from their state or from their village or in their inner circle. I hope Nigeria is ready. I believe with the progress we've seen over, the availability of social media, access to the internet that has spread around in the last few years, even more than at our previous elections 4 years ago. Hopefully, more Nigerians will vote with a conscience and vote such that at the end of it all, we actually have leadership in place that can say, okay, we're going to do things differently. We're going to have a different approach towards setting Nigeria up, governing Nigeria in a manner which benefits each and every Nigerian and not just a select few. That's what I hope.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people share that hope with you that we actually get the very best, because the choice that we make on Saturday will determine how we live for the next 4 years. We're going to have a listening leadership. We're going to have someone who is going to commit to certain things in terms of development for the country and all whatnot. It's all tied to this hope. Thank you very much. Now, a lot of the candidates are also looking at how this new Naira policy is frustrating people. And we've heard from people who are looking at the politics of it, saying it's meant to frustrate. I mean, you still have people like Akeredolu saying it's meant to frustrate Tinubu, looking at it from that very narrow lens. And a lot more people are looking at how it's frustrating the entire country. Some people are even speculating that it might affect the turnout of people. Others predict that this would even propel more people to go out on that day, maybe to register their anger or their pleasure at the policy. Because I don't know about your neck of the wood, but quite a number of people I interact with, it's just been 50-50. Those who think it's good that we have this cash crunch, that it will prevent vote buying, and those who are vehemently opposed to it, saying it's just bring absolute suffering on Nigerians and it will not in any way affect the positive outcome of the election.
Well, to that, anybody who thinks that this is positive or good, I will point out to them that the CBN is an agent of the government and is not supposed to be doing anything in regards to politics. The CBN has to concern itself with monetary policy, not even fiscal policy, but monetary policy and monetary policy alone. And when we look at best practice around the world, we tend to see that what is going on in Nigeria right now is something that is common, but nobody else does it the way it's being done in Nigeria. Countries generally bring out new edited versions of their currency and change them with the currency that is currently in circulation. You have the old notes, you have the new notes. In all other countries, normally when this process happens, both the old notes and new notes are generally considered legal tender simultaneously for a period of up to 6 months. And when we look at, for example, the US government that reissues notes every once in a while, 4 to 5 years or thereabouts, when we look at the whole process of moving from multiple different European countries to a unitary country in the currency in the euro, all these things were done smoothly. All these things happen smoothly and effortlessly around the world, and the general time frame for these things is considered to be plus minus 6 months. Why we decide in Nigeria that we have to do it within a month and then appeal for extension by a week or two, and then suffer ourselves through a process when best practice internationally shows how it works effortlessly without cashless systems crashing because of increased demand and requirement that they cannot handle, without economic, should I say, slowdown based on the unavailability of cash, because we tend to forget that in Nigeria there are certain things, day-to-day life, that every Nigerian encounters for which a cashless policy at this point in time is not even feasible. I can't go to the market and buy one mudu of egusi and start saying I want to do a transfer, or I expect that trader in the market to have a POS system. Because if you collect a POS system from a bank, the bank expects you to have a certain minimum turnover through that system, which most of these traders cannot even achieve because of the nature of their business. So this whole change of currency is not supposed to be as problematic as we are experiencing it to be. In fact, it doesn't. Again, it happens all the time, all around the world, but nobody does it the way we are doing it in Nigeria right now. And if this is really an attempt at using monetary policy to affect the liquidity of Nigerians coming towards elections, then for me, it's a misguided policy, if that's the intention behind it. Should we have to change our notes? Definitely. Do we need to have more money in circulation with the new notes that we can appreciate our Naira for what it is? Definitely. But it should be done in a manner based on what do others do? How does this system or this procedure work? Because what we're experiencing right now is another economic disaster at the end of the day. Trade has ground to a standstill in many places. A lot of cashless transactions cannot happen because the systems were not prepared for the demand that is there now.
We're so not ready for this.
Yes, and the normal thing would be, if you're going to risk this kind of situation, you give the banks a heads up and make sure that their systems are in place and can handle the traffic up to a certain level, so that even if there are delays, it doesn't lead to...
But by heads up, how long is good enough for the banks to be prepared for this?
How long is good enough for the banks to prepare for this? Well, in our current state of development worldwide, with information technology and specialists available over the internet to write certain programs, connect certain servers, the banks can get themselves set up for a complete cashless Nigeria within less than 3 months. The situation we find ourselves in right now, however, is I believe most banks did not expect, because I will not lie, this policy change of our currency notes and the time frame for it took me by surprise. I heard some talks about it, some rumors about it, and next thing I'm hearing there's a deadline towards the end of January you must have. And that must have basically insisting that our old notes cease being legal tender and only the new notes will be accepted. Again, it's done worldwide, but it's done over a period of 6 months. And during those 6 months, the old notes and the new notes are legal tender and can be traded. What happens is that when you pay in old notes into a bank account and you want to withdraw from the banks then are by law required not to give you back old notes, but to give out new notes for any new withdrawals being made. And as I said, it takes up to 6 months.
Up to 6 months, good enough. Well, it's obvious that the banks were really not carried along for all of this. And just to let you know, we're streaming live on YouTube at Nigeria Info ABJ. If you're subscribed already, I'm sure you can see Kim and our birthday boy guest in the studio. We're also live on Abuja. We have said Ahmed Tinubu is the next president. Okay, that's his opinion. Austin Du, good afternoon, Kim, and happy birthday to our guest Daniel Jaja. Thank you very much, Austin Du. Isaac Moses, I'm here watching you live. And Ebere Joseph says, good afternoon and happy birthday to the guest from Annie Joseph. Watching from Lagos, love the program. Akinwade Adebayo, thank you very much. We also have quite a number of people on our Facebook page also who are following the conversation. Elizabeth Achumugu says it's good to catch you on Facebook. I've been having issues with getting radio signals at home. It's a good thing that Nigeria Info is up here and you're addicted. Well, healthy addiction. Live from the Federal Capital, Francis Nkang says he's watching us from Wase in Plateau State. That is good to know. All the way from, okay, Wase is not just, but it's a cool place to be watching us from also. Thank you very much. Join us on Facebook and YouTube for more of the conversation. So, looking still, now that we're counting down, just if you, this time we can safely count down by hours to the election on Saturday, but there's still concerns. I mean, if you look at the reports coming in today from Enugu State, gunmen attacked the campaign convoy of Oforuchukwu Ebo, the House of Representative candidate of the PDP from Enugu North South Federal Constituency. The incident happened yesterday at Eke Out in Amechi, a community in Enugu South local government area of the state. It happened in the same area about the same time that gunmen killed the Labour Party senatorial candidate for Enugu East District in the state. It's not clear for now if the two attacks were carried out by the same gunmen or different arms of gunmen altogether. During the attack on the PDP candidate convoy, one of his drivers was killed by the attackers, and they're just pictures and all of that circulating. This is one of the very many attacks we're getting coming from the southeastern part of the country. And election is on Saturday. You start to wonder. I know it feels like we've been here before. 2015, we had Boko Haram terrorizing the Northeast. Election happened. 2019, we had some kind of threat. Somehow we managed to have election happen. And here we go again with more threats spread out in different parts of the country. And hopefully election will happen. But the thing is, I hope that it's not enough to scare people from coming out.
Well, to be honest, definitely with what is going on and what you have basically just described, these attacks, they fall under a very simple definition or term attributed to them. It's political violence. We need to move away from these things because apart from political violence, of course, desensitizing people or incentivizing them not to come out and vote for fear of safety of their own lives. We have to get to a place where those of our elected officials in our houses of representatives and the Senate agree to pass laws that make it clear that there will be consequences for political violence. And consequences not being in the sense of if we catch the perpetrators of gunmen, we will try them in court for the crimes they have committed and put them away, but that the parties that they represent or the parties that they feel to be aiding with these attacks actually get clear consequences, because they have to hold their followers to certain standards. And one of those standards should be no political violence. So when we hear things like the candidate for PDP was attacked, the candidate for Labour or others were attacked or even killed, we should have laws in place that say in that kind of situation, the party which they are most likely affiliated with, whether they receive that order from party members or not, has to bear the consequences for not keeping its own members or its followers in line with no political violence. Because this is one of the easiest way to disenfranchise the vote of people. When people try and get their PVCs because they want to partake in the political process, they want to cast their votes, and those efforts are frustrated, then there have to be consequences. If candidates are being attacked or representatives of parties are being exposed to political violence, then the parties that are opposing them or competing with them have to face some form of consequences, so that everybody makes it clear, look, we want to win at the ballot box. We want to win because we had the most votes, and not because we prevented people from voting for the other party. You do not prevent people from expressing their right by our constitution and say, this is who I want to lead us as a nation. A party that is confident of the programs it has, of the candidates it has, and the ideology it has, does not need to resort to political violence. You can convince straight-thinking human beings that, look, I am your best option. And the moment we hear violence, deaths, attacks, gunmen coming out, we know at the end of the day, these people are funded by whatever organization or whatever individual, but these are not your common everyday Nigerian citizens that wake up one day and say, oh, I need to somehow express myself against others with violence.
Let's take a quick break for commercial. When we return, we'll look at more aspects to this story. Please stay with us.
Audio Jungle.
This is Nigeria.
Is it just politics at play, or we are having a more insidious agenda?
Well, unfortunately, the most we can do is speculate and guess about that, which at the end of the day, we need to look where the buck stops. What table does this stop on? Now, the situation in the southeast of our country, unfortunately, for the past few years, has been one of instability.
Yeah.
And that is, at the end of the day, a failure of our security organs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If we have something that we can consider an insurrection or an attempt at secession by force, by power, then it means that the security agencies have not done their job well in containing a problem. We can only speculate and guess. Where is this violence coming from? Where is it originating from?
Yeah.
And what is the motivation behind it? But violence, at the end of the day, for political purposes, internationally is considered terrorism, be it domestic terrorism, be it terrorism coming from outside a nation. It is considered to be terrorism when you're trying to push through your political agenda with violence. I find it painful that this is happening particularly in the southeast, because the southeast of this country, different states, different cultures there actually have the tradition of meritocracy. We have established traditional ruler titles that are not necessarily bound to a line of succession based on genealogy, based on who your father was, but the family gets together and decides who is the person best suited for this job based on what they have done. So this demand or this expectation that violence has to be the way to get our agenda through is actually so non-Southeast Nigerian that it makes me wonder why the descendants of men who were proud to say, we will elect the best of us to lead us, are now listening to somebody whose only agenda and only means to pushing their agenda through seems to be violence. We should have people in the Southeast who are willing to say, we will not be intimidated by this. We will do our best to, again, until any states or state in the Southeast officially secedes from Nigeria, that state and its members are citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They are supposed to be able to count on the protection of the agents, of the law enforcement agencies of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. They should work together with the law enforcement of the Federal Republic of Nigeria until it is officially declared and stated and accepted by all that the situation has changed. But anybody refusing to respect that, anybody thinking that regardless of what happens in the next few years, they can right now depend on IPOB or any other organization that that has an agenda which they are pushing for right now, they are not officially in charge of anything. And until that changes, you cannot also expect any form of protection or help from them, which clearly they are also not pushing for, they are also not delivering. If they were trying to ensure that there was safety for people to cast their votes, which baffles me every time. If you come out as IPOB and say, look, we are going to make sure that nobody is going to experience political violence. Every person in the states that we say want to secede will go to the ballot box and vote freely. Then all you need to do is if you ensure that in the next upcoming elections, be on the ballot yourself. And people will recognize the fact that you have given us the choice, and then they will likely cast their vote on behalf of you. But if you continue intimidating them, if you continue telling them that they actually have no voice that you want to listen to, where will you get your support from? Because at the end of the day, none of us can decide for everybody else. That is why we vote, so that the majority chooses these are the people who should lead us, and then those who unfortunately had a different candidate accept that because the majority has decided, let us see what comes out of it. Let us support this government. Let us support our leaders that have been selected, even if it wasn't my candidate.
Exactly.
At least my voice was heard. Unfortunately, not enough people thought like me, so majority carries the vote.
Well, at the end of the day, that's how democracy plays out when it comes to our election. It's majority, actually. The highest number decides who runs things at the end of the day. All right, we'll take some more comments. We have one more story to look at. And this is interesting, Daniel, because this particular election is where we see a lot of party members. You know, the internal wrangling within the parties are unique this time around. We've had previous election where, particularly with the PDP, you have a walkout, national convention not agreeing with it. Then you have a new faction, NPDP, and then they eventually merge with the APC. But this time around, you're getting people within the parties staying within the party and causing some sort of problems within the party, if I may put it that way, or disagreeing with party members and party issues within the party, but refusing to leave. Wike comes to mind, for example, like he's a thorn in the flesh of the PDP national chairman and the presidential candidate and quite a number of the party members. They have a number of them who decide to stage I don't know how to describe their G5 union, but even now they do not have one voice because different members of the G5 have decided to lean towards different presidential candidates. But we know how the G5 have operated within the PDP. Enough that Nigerians were worried that it was going to affect the PDP if they don't resolve the issues. Apparently, the presidential candidate has moved on with his campaigns and hoping that he wins in spite of the hiccups within his party. The APC is also quite interesting because with the money policy, the monetary policy that was introduced by the CBN, instructed by the president, it's biting hard at members of the APC. You have the members of the APC say, oh no, this is targeted against the presidential candidate of the APC. And you're speaking to the leader of your party. You are the ruling party. So it's not speaking to the opposition, but acting like an opposition within the party to saying it's targeted at this person. We're getting people like Governor Erufai, Governor Ganduje, being very vocal and even countering what the president is saying. President put out a broadcast saying it's going to be 200 Naira and all whatnot. It's for a greater good. Kaduna State Governor is putting a broadcast and said, in his own word, in summary, disregard what the president has said and do what I'm saying like he has the power to. So it's interesting, and it is a curious one, actually, how it's going to affect the election and the structures of these parties.
Well, concerning the differences of, let us call them opinions, between the president and certain governors, when we look at a country which is a democracy and understand the meaning of true federalism, there is actually nothing wrong with a governor having a different opinion about something versus what the president thinks. At the end of the day, we need to respect the fact that the way Nigeria is set up constitutionally, yes, the highest office that one person can occupy is the office of the president. But that president is still bound and takes an oath on upholding the Constitution of Nigeria. Means that person is still bound to be guided within the confines of the laws that govern Nigeria.
Yeah.
The apex authority on the interpretation and layout of the laws that govern Nigeria is the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court, if you look at the hierarchical structure, actually stands above all. And that is why the Supreme Court is not, we do not have a supreme judge. That is one person who calls the shots up there, but is an accumulation of legal professionals who have experience, who have specialized themselves, who have been elected and put into those positions so that they can discern, is what the president or the governor or the common civilian on the road doing, if necessary, in line with what our laws state. And again, the problem we have right now is there is a misunderstanding amongst many Nigerians because we have allowed ourselves to develop into a country where politics are actually bound to individuals versus being bound to parties and party ideologies. That is also responsible for all the squabbles we're having within our big parties. Because I put it to you that if the APC had a clear-cut party ideology, this is where we stand on, for example, taxation. This is where we stand on foreign relations. This is where we stand on day-to-day life. And the PDP had their own, and Labour had their own, then we would not be having so many squabbles within these parties, because those squabbles that are going on are at the end of the day bound or based on loyalties to individuals versus loyalty to a particular ideology which a party is supposed to present. If they were united on the program of the party, they would not be having these internal problems. But because they are not united, because we have had a lot of people come into politics in Nigeria whose main motivation is not better governance for Nigerians, but better economics for my pocket, they, of course, allow their flags to wave in the manner that favors them personally best. Meanwhile, they should be able to agree that this is what favors all Nigerians better. That is why we are together in this party, because this is what our party wants to achieve. But we have let that situation again, unfortunately, move away from the ideal and more towards a place where we look at individuals, we look at individuals' charisma, and we look at what this person can do for me or for us versus what this person can do for the country. So we really hope that we eventually come to a place where the citizens voting can focus more on what is this individual in line with what the party stands for going to do for Nigeria versus what is this individual going to do for the people who are close to him and the people who are connected to them.
Like you said when you started, in terms of the party, what do they really stand for? If you want to look at the ideological standpoint of the political party, enough for people to say, okay, this is what this party represents. I mean, we've had this conversation over time to saying the reason why it's easy to see cross-carpeting is because most people don't see any distinct difference between or distinction between the parties.
Yes.
And they can move as they please. But the interesting thing this time around is we're not seeing too much of the movement, but the wrangling within the party. So it still boils down to not having that ideological stand, Yes. And people coming for their own interest.
Exactly. It still boils down to us not being able to say, this is what APC stands for, and this is how APC is different from PDP, and this is how PDP is different from Labour, and this is how Labour is different from whichever other party you want to consider. But I think those are the three big ones that we have to look at in Nigeria. And yes, the lines are supposed to be clear-cut, but they are very hazy and practically non-existent. And that is something which, in my personal perspective, disqualifies me of taking any of these parties serious. Because we can't even sit down and say, okay, this is what this party, definitely on this matter, this is how this party is going to handle this thing. In other countries, we can look and say, okay, there's a party that clearly will tell you, we want to lower taxes across the board, regardless of what. There's a party that will tell you our focus is on renewable energy and building a greener future, not just for our country, but for the rest of the world. So you actually have an idea, the people in this party, what do they stand for? What do they think is the best way forward? But in Nigeria, we're used to paying attention to things like, for example, in the last few elections we had, there was what was called stomach infrastructure, meaning we will feed the poor. There is no party that does not say we will feed the poor. There is no party that does not say we want Nigerians to come out of poverty and live better lives. The question is, how are you going to
from
achieve
the
that?
get-go Operation Feed the Nation, programs that were designed from one government to another. Sadly, we're still right in the middle.
We're still right in the middle because there is no clear-cut philosophy or ideology. There is no strategy. There is no plan. Everything is done to sound sweet in the ears of those listening so that a party gets into power. And when the party is in power, because they've not made any concrete promises or laid out any concrete plans, you cannot now hold them to account and say, hey, When you told us we should vote for you, you said you are going to alleviate poverty.
Yeah.
Now you are in power, you haven't alleviated poverty. But we have done this program and done that program and released this money and done this thing. Yes, but we didn't know that, and we don't agree that these programs are actually addressing the problem. We should have heard about these programs before we cast our vote, and not just of the general story that we want to make things better. Of course, PDP wants to make things better. APC wants to make things better. Labour wants to make things better. Everybody wants to make things better. How do you want to make them better? What exactly are you going to do to make things better? Those are the questions that are supposed to be answered before we are asked to go and vote. But we refuse to ask these questions. And if we ask them...
But people will tell you they've answered them. All the campaigns we've been having for 150 days and the manifestos they've put out is to tell you that's how. Go and verify.
No. They have not answered these questions. What our politicians keep doing and what we have come to accept, unfortunately, not just in Nigeria, but around the world, are so-called non-answers, where you ask somebody something and instead of giving you a straightforward yes or no, they tell you a long story where at the end of it all, they've not said yes, they've not said no, and they've not even said maybe. So we have to get to a place where we start asking tough questions and refuse to accept non-answers. A non-answer is always a politician telling you, I don't want to commit. And we need to, if you tell me you want to make things better, you should have committed yourself to the plan and strategy with which you are going to, by implementation, make things better. But if you can't tell me that, then why should I vote for you? I shouldn't vote for you because you are popular. You know, we make this mistake of always looking, yes, an election is a popularity contest. But it's not just a popularity contest based on how sweet do my words sound. Do my words actually make sense? Is there value to it? Is there somebody that can sit down in Australia or in France or in Italy and sit down and say, this thing that these people are saying, it looks like there's a chance for success.
All right.
That's what's important.
That's what's important. I hope that you, at this point in time, I've heard enough to convince you about who you'll be voting for on Saturday. Not to you, Daniel, but to you listening. And let's bring you in now. I can see that a lot of you are not focusing on YouTube and Facebook, because one is asking me if you're a political analyst or an American movie star. I'm going to try and scroll past all of these messages and look at the ones that are focused on our conversation. Bere Joseph Ani Ministry says President Buhari should just deploy soldiers to the southeast. This is the best time to dance their Python dance, which is the real national threat against our unity. Election must hold in the southeast. Hashtag. Asiri Rabba says, I appeal to all to go out and exercise their franchise peacefully. Nigeria needs to make progress in every area. Snell Gallery says, the judiciary is part of the problem of our security challenges. Look at what they did to Ibibago in Ebonyi State, where the vigilante had succeeded in rolling back the nefarious activities of these IPOB members. Did they, in all honesty, roll back their activities? And Tony Collins, great talk with your analyst. His views are great. I'm enjoying the conversation. That's good to know. Let's hear you via telephone 0700 951 0000. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, Kim.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, my name is Stanley.
We're listening, Stanley.
Right from Central Vietnam.
Go ahead, Stanley.
Now, talking about what we do on Saturday. It's now or never for us as Nigerians to look effectively, or let me put it again, retrospectively, and find a way forward to choose a leader that knows what he is doing, to bring God, bring things, to work for the citizens. Not it is my turn, not theirs. Who will bring us for consumption, production, so that there will be work for people.
All right, Stanley.
33% is jobless. Let us bring people that will work and leave all these old politicians that are more than
all right, Stanley. Thank you very much. Thank you, Stanley. Let's hear someone else. Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Kim, good afternoon.
Yeah, this is Oyi Money from Lifecam.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. You know, I want to talk about the killing of the senator in Enugu State.
Go ahead, sir. 1 minute.
Hello?
You've got a minute, Oil Money.
Okay, sorry. You see, the issue is that I've been able to be around these men in the corridor of power. If I should tell you what my eyes have seen, you see that the kind of leadership we have been producing all these years, it has not helped this nation. Because most of them behave like they are ready to kill because of this power. And it's very sad. Because I remember during 2011 October bomb blast in Ego Square, I saw some people celebrating it, and I begin to wonder why.
All right, sir.
So it's very bad. I think
Thank
God
you.
should help all this time around to come out of this bad shape.
Thank you very
so
much. Let's hear another caller. Hello. Good afternoon. Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the show. What's your name? We're listening.
Yeah, Mr. Jaja, well done. I listened to all your analysts and your points. And that's the same question that you're asking is the same question I'm asking myself. And I always ask people, that person that you are supporting, that you want to die for, can be within yourself. And you within yourself, ask yourself, that person that you are supporting, is this person the right person for you? That is just the question. And sometimes when they are asking some questions of them from interview, the way some of them answer, you are not even convinced. You are not convinced. They don't convince you. So the thing is just that I just keep praying for Nigeria, and then let's hope for the better. That's just the only thing I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Ola. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Let's hear someone else. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, the Digital Oracle.
Good afternoon.
And good afternoon to our guests, and happy birthday, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
My name is Salasi. Honestly, I want to talk about the man that they killed yesterday in Enugu. Why are we doing these things to ourselves? In fact, there's a video that has been watching the people chanting that no election. This is not supposed to be happening. Your own is at the ballot, and you are coming out in mass and saying no election, no election. Why? Why are we doing this thing to ourselves? I think something needs to be done for this Southeast killing, because this insecurity is so alarming in the South, and government should do something about it. Who are these unknown governments? They need to be en masse. We need to know who are the sponsors of this unknown government. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Emeka.
All right, Emeka, we're listening.
Yeah. I just want to address two issues. And the first one is talking about we, the electorate. I watched the presidential candidates filing the peace accord yesterday. Even though they have different intentions, but in their faces we could see laughter. We could see them showing off that this thing is not a do or die affair as far as they are concerned. So I want to tell my fellow electorate, go out there and cast your vote and don't die for any of the presidential candidates, no matter what he has promised you. These things are promises made, and none has ever been fulfilled in the history of Nigeria to a certain percentage that somebody can make his life available for such people. Secondly, I want to talk about the killing of the senatorial candidate of Labour Party yesterday. I want to plead on those from the Southeast, including myself. that even though Obi is our presidential candidate, he is going to get his strong vote from there if things play out well. But with what is happening, I am afraid he may not even get that expected vote that makes him get up there. And if it doesn't come for him, we should only blame ourselves and no other person.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's get another caller. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Yeah, this is Sunday. I'm calling from Dublin this afternoon.
Let's talk.
Yes, I just want to comment about the killing in the Southeast. This killing from all angles to me, it seems like a politically motivated killing. The first instance that I know, they are not known for that. Why would people go and kill somebody because of election? I really don't understand. I will feel like if the kind of people are for the central government against the Southeast, because if you go there are lots of military, police, and other things on the road. In a mile, you can view 2-3 police checkpoints. And you can imagine people move with weapons and go and kill and escape. Why? Where are the roads? After this, which road they take after killing the victim? Whereas we see police taking points all over the road. It's not the kind of saboteur.
All right. All right.
Don't know.
Well, this has been going on even before Peter Obi declared interest to run for office. The insecurity in that part of the country would not limit it to just the politics of things or to just narrow it down to one candidate. But it's very troubling, the progression it's taking now. And some people are asking me, we just heard that Simon Ekpa has been arrested. Well, that story is just filtering in. And I can't verify just yet, but, the feelers coming in is that I picked up Simon Ekpa is the man in Finland who decided that from today up until the 28th, people should sit down at home. How can you be in another country and you tell people this and then you actually have minions out there carrying out this instruction, killing people, destroying the whole area? It's just mind-boggling how it's easy to just get people to do some of these evil crimes.
Well, again, the problem that we have, unfortunately, is we have accepted as a society that the man is what counts. The person is what counts. And when we look around, the simple idea that would function in a democracy is ridiculous, because that only functions in dictatorships, in autocracies, in monarchies, where you decide to say, this particular person, not the person's ideas, not the ideology, not the plans or the strategy, but the individual is the right person for the job. Because what determines the person's suitability for the job is the thoughts in the person's head, and not their character, not their charisma, not their wealth, not their personal success, but what they actually intend to do and how much sense it makes.
All right, then. Let's run for another very quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.
Sincerely, I don't want to wait till I graduate